Hi, I'm Tammy Hamilton and this is my demonstration. Today we are going to be talking about knives and being safe with them and their uses. Today we all have all knives in our kitchen. We have all sorts of knives. If you probably have a normal kitchen, you probably have a knife block with all sorts of different styles of knives that you have. Well, there's three different main ones that I'm going to talk about today. Now our first knife, in order to be safe, I took the sheaths off. Always store them with their sheaths on in drawers. It's safe. And it keeps people around you safe. You might know your knives are in there, but somebody might not. So always keep your knife sheathed when it's in a drawer. So today's first knife is our chef's knife. The blade is usually 8 to 10 inches long, and it's a solid knife. The shaft goes all the way through, and it's usually a sharp blade, solid and not edged. So this knife is used 90% of our time in our kitchen for versatile uses. But the main uses we should be using it for is for chopping, slicing, those kind of things where the weight of the knife is going to work with it to put the extra weight to get the things cut. Now that's a chef's knife. Our second knife we're going to work with today is called a serrated knife, or you might have heard of it as a bread knife. Used for cutting things like cakes or breads that have air pockets in there, or fleshy fruit and vegetables that might crimp down when cut through. So this is a serrated knife. It's usually 8 to 10 inches in length, and in the blade it's a little flexy. It's not as solid as our chef's knife, so never use this knife for cutting, chopping solid things like carrots and potatoes. Never use it on hard items such as acorn squash or butternut squash, for instance, or watermelon. It's a very hard objects. And this is a knife that bends. It has some flex to it. We never want to have to use this knife to pry with as well. Okay, that's a serrated knife. Our third knife today is our paring knife. Our paring knife has usually got about 3.5 inch blade. It's a solid knife. It's used for smaller items, mincing items, cutting up small details. Now this knife is usually used for the mincing of small items. Never use it for big cutting. You don't want to cut it with carrots and stuff that are big because it doesn't have the weight that the other knives do for chopping. So this is always for little slices or little dices and stuff. Think of your small items like your limes, your lemons, and stuff like that. Now you don't want to use this as a pry bar. I know we've always thought of that sometimes. We got those frozen steaks stuck together, and we use it in the edge and try to get them apart. Not a good idea. It's not safe to use, and you'll break the blade. It's not a very hard blade because it is a smaller blade. So you never want to pry with this as well. Don't pry with your knives. It's just unsafe. Remember, we want safety with our knives. So with safety items, each knife has a special use. When thinking of items that you want to cut in their daily lives, we're going to take a tomato today. But now with the tomato, it's got a nice smooth texture around it. What kind of knife would you use to cut this with? Think about it. We've learned about 3 different knives. Would you use a paring knife, serrated knife, or the chef's knife? Now, all our knives, they're all sharp, so all knives will work for it, but which ones is the best? Well, let's try and see. We're going to try first with our chef's knife. Remember, I said 90% of our time in our kitchen, we use a chef's knife. That fleshy skin doesn't give very well. And you don't want to have to saw with this knife. It's not meant to saw with. It's meant for chopping. So, yeah, let's put the chef's knife back. Okay, that didn't work for us. Paring knife. It's sharp. Does little jobs. Again, that fleshy skin, and we got to saw through to get through. A paring knife is going to work because it's sharp, and we did get through it. But is it the best knife? We never want to have to force a knife through something, and it also squishes down your tomato when you force. We want nice slices of tomato on our sandwich today. What about a serrated knife, or commonly called as a bread knife? It's meant for serrating, or being sawed through, and it'll slice it right through the fleshy skin, making it thin slices or thick slices. Serrated knife for our tomato today is the best knife. Remember, 8 to 10 inch blade, and it's also bendable. Flexy, it goes through that tomato with a little bit of saw action, gives you a nice smooth cut. Where the other ones kind of smush your tomato, we don't want smushy tomatoes. All right, let's move on to our next thing we're going to cut today. Now we're going to do the lemon. Lemons can be are great for desserts, or we're going to cut them up and we're going to slice them up for our drinks today. So what's the best knife we're going to use? Is it going to be that serrated knife? Remember, it bends. It's kind of the skin on the outside is kind of flexy. So is it going to work? Well, we're going to have to saw through it. Remember, we want safety, and it's forcing that knife through. We don't want to force our knives for safety reasons. So yeah, let's stay away from this bendable, flexy knife. Well, what about this chopping knife? Remember, 90% of our uses in our kitchen is the chopping knife. And we said it was versatile. It's sharp. It's going to cut through. Again, we're forcing it through. It's cutting that lemon, and it cut it. Not very safely, though. You heard how I slipped there. We don't want to do that. So, the chopping knife, 90% use, not for this use. Let's go with that paring knife. That paring knife, nice, sharp, crisp blade, smaller, less likely to slip because you got control over your item and your knife. It's small, not overexpanded. You slice right through. Now we want little wedges for our drinks. So we're going to cut those wedges in there. Our paring knife's the best option for our lemons. Ready for a drink. All right, that's our second item today. Our third item is carrots. I made these nice and washed, nice and green, fresh carrots, hard vegetables. What do you think is going to be the best item for us to use for a knife? Is it going to be that serrated knife? Is it going to be the paring knife? What about chef's knife? Let's start with our paring knife. Works. It's a sharp knife, right? It's going to cut the little edges up. It's a lot of little cutting. It's fine cutting. I mean, if you're going to do special items or something, it would work. Okay, that paring knife works. Again, it's a lot of extra work. Your arms are going to get tired working and cutting. The harder the carrot and the harder and thicker the carrot, it's going to be requiring more work. This knife's not the best idea for that. What about that serrated knife? Let's think about that one again. Serrated knife bend. Is that going to be a good knife? All knives cut, right? They're all sharp. Again, you're far out from that carrot. With that serrated knife you're cutting, not the best knife for use. It's unsafe and not the practical use. So that leaves us to our chef's knife. 90% of your usage, remember. Okay, my favorite knife, by the way, if you haven't noticed. All right, so cutting. You got control over the knife's doing the work. You're not pushing down, the knife is actually working itself right through the carrot. As you get through the thicker stuff, you move up on your knife, and it goes right through. We got our carrot cut in no time. Now, so we have 3 knives today in conclusion. Each one has its own uses. Always good for the kitchen, right? Everything's sharp and shiny, but each one has its own use. Smaller items, that 3.5-inch blade, it's going to cut right through those smaller items, give you a little finer detail, mincing those onions and that. Your serrated knife, going to cut through those cakes, going to do your breads, but also keep in mind it's not just a bread knife, it's a serrated knife. It can be used on those fleshy fruits such as tomatoes, giving you those nice slices for those sandwiches. And your chef's knife, again, the 6-inch blade usually, or 8-inch blade, and it's also smooth. It gives you that nice weight and gets you through those carrots as you need to get through. Any hard vegetables, remember, no prying with the knives, and always keep them sharp. A sharp knife is the least likely to hurt you. A dull knife will give you the worst cut. And keep in mind that when you're keeping your knives in your drawers, not everybody knows where your knife drawer is when they reach in there. Make sure you keep your sheets on. Well, thank you for joining us today, and have a great rest of your day. And thanks for learning about knives, knife safety, and practical uses in the kitchen. Have a good day.